Have you ever held a pen in your hand, ready to sign away everything you worked for, only to realize in that exact moment that you were nothing more than a signature to the people you loved most? I had that moment on a rainy Thursday afternoon in a small conference room at First Pacific Bank in Portland, Oregon. The documents in front of me totaled $320,000, a co-signature on a mortgage that would drain my retirement savings and put my own home at risk. All for my only son. My name is Barbara Sullivan. I am 64 years old, a retired accountant who spent 38 years helping other people manage their money while quietly building my own modest nest egg. I raised my son Kevin alone, after his father walked out when Kevin was just 7 years old. I worked 2 jobs for years, did taxes on weekends, tutored math students at night, all so my boy would never feel the absence of a father's paycheck. I thought I had done everything right. The loan officer had stepped out to make copies when my phone buzzed, a text from Kevin. My heart lifted the way it always did when I saw his name, even though our conversations had become increasingly transactional since he married Megan 4 years ago. I opened the message expecting something about the closing, maybe a thank you, maybe even an excited emoji about the house they were finally going to own with my help. Instead, I read these words, "Mom, about Lily's birthday party on Saturday. Megan thinks it would be better if you didn't come. Her parents are flying in from Connecticut, and there's limited space. Plus you know how you get with the camera, always taking pictures nobody wants. We'll send you some photos after. Thanks for understanding." I read it 3 times. Then, a 4th. My granddaughter was turning 5, and I was being uninvited to her birthday party while sitting in a bank about to risk everything I owned for her parents. Limited space. How I get with the camera. Thanks for understanding. The loan officer returned with a warm smile and a thick stack of papers. She placed them in front of me with a pen. "Mrs. Sullivan, we just need your signature on the highlighted sections. As co-signer, you're guaranteeing the full amount of the mortgage. Your son and daughter-in-law are very lucky to have your support." Lucky. I stared at the pen. I thought about all the birthday parties I had hosted for Kevin growing up, the cakes I baked from scratch because I couldn't afford bakery prices, the presents I wrapped at midnight after working double shifts. I thought about the camera comment, how Megan always rolled her eyes when I wanted to capture moments with my granddaughter, as if my desire to have photographs of her was somehow embarrassing. "Mrs. Sullivan, is everything all right?" I looked up at the loan officer. "May I have a moment? I need to make a phone call." She nodded and excused herself. I dialed Kevin's number. He picked up on the second ring, his voice casual. "Hey Mom, did you get my text? We figured you'd understand. Megan's parents haven't seen Lily in 6 months, and they're staying the whole weekend, so it just makes more sense." "I understand," I said slowly. "I'm at the bank right now, about to sign." "Oh great, that's great. The realtor said we can close by next Friday if everything goes through." Megan already picked out curtains for the master bedroom. She's really excited. "Kevin, do you remember what you told me when you asked me to co-sign this loan?" He paused. "What do you mean?" "You said, 'Mom, you're the only family I have. You're everything to us.' Do you remember that?" "Yeah, of course. And you are." "Then why am I being told not to come to my only grandchild's birthday party on the same day I'm signing away my financial security for your family?" Silence stretched between us. When he spoke again, his voice had that edge I had heard more and more often since he married Megan. "Mom, don't be dramatic. These are 2 completely separate things. The house is an investment. The party is just logistics. Megan's parents are paying for half of it anyway, so she gets to decide the guest list. And I'm not on that list. It's not personal. You know how Megan's mother is. She's very particular about things, and last time you came to an event, you wore that purple sweater with the cat on it, and she made comments for weeks." I felt something crack inside me, something that had been fracturing for years but finally broke clean through. My purple sweater. My camera. My presence itself, an inconvenience to be managed. "I see," I said quietly. "Thank you for being honest with me, Kevin. So we're good? You're signing today?" "I'll let you know." I hung up before he could respond. For a long moment, I sat in that conference room watching the rain streak down the windows, thinking about the woman I had become. A woman who apologized for her sweaters. A woman who understood when she was excluded. A woman so desperate to be needed that she would bankrupt herself for people who found her embarrassing. When the loan officer returned, I had made my decision. "I've changed my mind," I said. "I won't be co-signing today." Her professional smile flickered. "Mrs. Sullivan, your son and his wife are depending on this. Without your co-signature, they won't qualify for the mortgage. They've already put down earnest money." "I understand. But I've decided not to proceed." "May I ask why?" "We can adjust the terms if there's a concern about." "The terms are fine. I've simply realized that I deserve to be treated with more respect than I've been receiving. Please cancel the application." She stared at me for a moment, then slowly gathered the unsigned papers. "I'll need you to sign a withdrawal form." I signed that instead. My hand was steady. Walking out of the bank, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. It took me a moment to identify it. It was dignity. I had chosen myself, perhaps for the first time since Kevin was born. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. "Kevin." I let it go to voicemail. Then Megan called. I let that go too. By the time I got home, I had 14 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic text messages. The earnest money. The timeline. The curtains Megan had already ordered. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my back porch, watching the rain fall on my little garden. This house, a modest 3-bedroom craftsman I had purchased 20 years ago, was paid off. It was mine. And I had almost risked it for people who didn't want me at a child's birthday party. The next morning, I received a call that would change everything. "Mrs. Sullivan, this is Detective Ramirez from the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit. We've been trying to reach you for several days. It's urgent that we meet." My stomach dropped. "Financial crimes? I don't understand." "Ma'am, it would be better to discuss this in person. Can you come to the Central Precinct this afternoon?" 3 hours later, I sat across from Detective Ramirez in a small interview room. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes that held a professional distance. "Mrs. Sullivan, are you aware that there are 7 credit accounts open in your name that you did not authorize?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's impossible. I check my credit annually. I'm an accountant." She slid a folder across the table. "These accounts were opened over the past 4 years using your social security number, your date of birth, and your previous addresses. The statements have been going to a P.O. box in Beaverton. The total outstanding balance across all accounts is approximately $95,000. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Credit cards I had never applied for. A car loan I had never signed. A line of credit at a furniture store I had never visited. All in my name. All with my information. How is this possible? Who would have access to all of this? Detective Ramirez's expression softened slightly. "Mrs. Sullivan, the P.O. box is registered to Sullivan Family Investments, LLC. When we looked into the company registration, the authorized signers are Kevin Sullivan and Megan Sullivan." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. "No," I whispered, "that can't be right. Kevin is my son. I understand this is difficult to hear. We've been investigating this for 3 months, following a pattern of identity theft that matched your profile. When we saw the mortgage application come through the system with your name as co-signer, it raised additional flags. That's why we reached out." I stared at the documents. 4 years. Since Kevin married Megan. 4 years of lies, of stolen identity, of money drained from accounts I didn't know existed but was legally responsible for. "The mortgage," I said suddenly. "I was about to co-sign on their house. If I had signed, you would have been liable for $320,000 on top of the $95,000 already in your name. And based on the pattern we're seeing, we believe they intended to refinance and pull additional equity once the property was in their possession." I thought about Kevin's voice on the phone. So casual, so certain I would sign, so confident that his embarrassing mother, with her purple sweater, would hand over everything without question. "What are my options?" I asked, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Detective Ramirez outlined the choices. I could file a police report and press charges. My son and his wife could face felony fraud charges, potential prison time. Or I could pursue civil remedies, try to recover the money through lawsuits and negotiations. Or I could do nothing and absorb the debt. "I need to think," I said. "How long do I have before you move forward with an official investigation?" Given the complexity of the case, we typically give victims a week or two to decide how they want to proceed. But Mrs. Sullivan, I want to be clear. What they did to you is a serious crime. You are the victim here. That word echoed in my mind as I drove home. Victim. I had been one for 4 years without knowing it. Maybe longer. Maybe since the first time I accepted a dismissive comment, the first time I apologized for existing in my own family. Over the next few days, I did what I do best. I investigated. I pulled every financial record I could access, traced every transaction, mapped out exactly how my son and his wife had systematically exploited my trust. The furniture they bragged about buying on sale had been purchased with credit in my name. The vacation to Hawaii last summer was charged to a card I didn't know existed. Even the engagement ring Kevin had given Megan, the one she loved to flash at family gatherings, had been bought on a line of credit tied to my Social Security number. I also discovered something else. 3 months ago, Kevin had added himself as an authorized user on one of my legitimate credit cards, the one I kept for emergencies. He had forged my signature on the authorization form. The card now had a balance of $12,000 from purchases I had never made. The total damage was over $107,000, and they had been about to get access to $320,000 more. I called my oldest friend, Patricia, who had been a prosecutor before retiring. We met at a coffee shop downtown, and I showed her everything. "Barbara," she said after reviewing the documents, "this is textbook identity theft and fraud. Multiple felony counts. They could each face 5 to 10 years. He's my son. He's also a criminal who stole over $100,000 from you and was planning to steal more." I stirred my coffee, watching the cream dissolve. "If I press charges, I lose him forever." Patricia reached across the table and took my hand. "Honey, look at what he's already done. You've been losing him for years. The question isn't whether you lose Kevin. The question is whether you lose yourself trying to hold on to someone who sees you as nothing more than a resource to exploit." She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing and accepting are different things. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be a victim, and I wasn't going to simply seek revenge. I was going to do something I had never done before. I was going to protect myself while creating something meaningful from the wreckage. I called a lawyer, Patricia recommended, a sharp woman named Diana Chen, who specialized in financial fraud cases. Together, we developed a plan, not just to recover what was stolen, but to fundamentally change the power dynamic that had allowed this to happen in the first place. 2 weeks later, I invited Kevin and Megan to dinner at my house. I told them I wanted to discuss the mortgage situation, that I had reconsidered, that perhaps we could find another way to make it work. Kevin's relief was palpable over the phone. Megan even sent a text, saying she was looking forward to clearing the air. They arrived at 6 o'clock sharp. Megan brought flowers, lilies that I was allergic to, which she knew. Kevin hugged me with the practiced warmth of someone who needed something. "Mom, I'm so glad you called. We've been worried about you. And look, about the birthday party thing, we felt terrible. Lily kept asking where Grandma was." I smiled and ushered them to the dining room, where I had set a beautiful table, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, all of Kevin's favorites from childhood. We made small talk through dinner, discussing the weather, Lily's preschool, Megan's job at the marketing firm. As I served dessert, apple pie with vanilla ice cream, I finally spoke. "I've done a lot of thinking over the past 2 weeks," I said. "About family. About trust. About what it really means to support the people you love." Kevin nodded eagerly. We've been thinking too, Mom. And we realized we haven't been fair to you. Megan's parents, they can be overwhelming, and we let that affect how we treated you. It won't happen again. I appreciate that, I said. And I've decided to help you with the house. Their faces lit up. Megan reached for Kevin's hand under the table. But first, I continued, I need you both to sign some documents. Just standard family agreements my lawyer recommended. Nothing complicated. I placed 3 folders on the table. Kevin frowned slightly. You have a lawyer now? I'm an accountant, Kevin. I should have had one years ago. I opened the first folder. This is simply an acknowledgement of the financial support I'm providing, the terms, the expectations. My lawyer said it's standard for large family loans. Kevin skimmed the first page, nodded, and signed. Megan followed, barely glancing at the contents. I slid the second folder forward. This one is an inventory of family financial arrangements, just documenting everything clearly so there are no misunderstandings. Again, they signed without reading carefully. They were so confident, so certain that good old Barbara would never do anything unexpected. The third folder I held for a moment before placing it on the table. And this, I said quietly, is something different. Something in my tone made them both look up. Kevin's hand hesitated over the pen. Mom? What is this? This is a detailed acknowledgement of the 7 fraudulent credit accounts opened in my name over the past 4 years. The car loan. The credit cards. The furniture store line of credit. All using my social security number, all with statements sent to a P.O. box registered to your LLC. I pulled out copies of the documents Detective Ramirez had shown me. This is your signature, Megan, on the visa application. And this is yours, Kevin, on the auto loan. The total damage is $107,000. The color drained from both their faces. Mom, I can explain. No, I said firmly. You can't. There is no explanation that makes this acceptable. You stole my identity. You stole my money. You destroyed my credit. And you were planning to steal even more. When I co-signed that mortgage, Megan started to stand. We don't have to listen to this. Sit down. My voice was harder than I had ever heard it. Those documents you just signed? The first one is a confession of fraud. The second is an agreement to repay every dollar you stole within 24 months. And the third is a consent form allowing me to take immediate legal action if you fail to comply. Kevin's hands were shaking. You tricked us. No. I presented documents to people who have been stealing from me for 4 years. You signed them without reading because you assumed your mother would never be smart enough to outsmart you. Just like you assumed I would never discover the fraud because I was too trusting, too desperate for your love, too afraid of losing you. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at my garden, the roses I had planted 10 years ago, the vegetable bed I tended every summer. Here's what happens now. You have 2 choices. Option 1, you honor the agreements you just signed. You repay every dollar within 24 months. You leave Portland and have no contact with me. In exchange, I don't file criminal charges. You avoid prison. And option 2? Megan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Option 2 is I give these documents to Detective Ramirez, who has been investigating your fraud ring for 3 months. You both face multiple felony charges. Kevin, you could serve 5 to 10 years. Megan, probably the same. And I will pursue you in civil court for every penny. Kevin put his head in his hands. Mom, please, I'm your son. Yes, you are. And I spent 30 years sacrificing everything for you. I worked 2 jobs so you could have a good childhood. I paid for your college. I gave you money for your wedding. I was ready to risk my retirement, my home, everything, to help you buy a house. And in return, you stole from me, lied to me, and told me I was too embarrassing to attend my granddaughter's birthday party. The silence in the room was absolute. You have until tomorrow morning to decide, I said. Now please leave my house. They left without another word. Megan was crying. Kevin looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I watched their car pull away, then sat down at my dining room table, surrounded by the remains of the meal I had cooked with such care. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I needed to apologize, or explain, or accommodate. I felt clear. The next morning, I received an email from Kevin. One sentence. "We accept your terms." The following months were a whirlwind of change. Kevin and Megan sold what they could, scraped together a repayment plan, and moved to Arizona, where Megan's brother offered Kevin a job. I received a check every month, right on time. We did not speak. But the more significant transformation was in myself. I started volunteering at a local senior center, teaching financial literacy classes to older adults who, like me, had been taken advantage of by people they trusted. The response was overwhelming. Story after story of grandparents scammed by grandchildren, parents bankrupted by children, lifelong savers wiped out by family members who saw them as easy targets. I partnered with a nonprofit called Elder Financial Protection Network and developed a comprehensive curriculum. Within 6 months, we were reaching hundreds of seniors across Oregon. Within a year, we had expanded to 5 states. I named the program Second Chapter, because I believed that no matter what happened to you, no matter how badly you were betrayed, you could always write a new story for yourself. 3 years after that dinner at my house, I stood at a podium in Washington, D.C., receiving a national award for elder advocacy. The audience was filled with senators, advocates, journalists, and in the back row, I saw Kevin. He had asked to come. I had said yes. After the ceremony, he approached me hesitantly. He looked different, thinner, humbler. The arrogance that Megan had cultivated in him seemed to have faded. "Mom, I don't know what to say. What you've built, the people you've helped. I had no idea. How could you? You never asked about my life, only about what I could give you." He nodded, accepting the truth of it. "I finished the repayments last month. Every dollar. I know. Megan and I are divorced. She left when the money ran out." He laughed bitterly. "You were right about her. About everything." I studied my son's face, looking for the boy I had raised, the child who used to bring me dandelions from the backyard and call them flowers. He was still in there somewhere, buried under years of poor choices and worse influences. "Kevin, I don't know if we can ever have a real relationship again. The trust is gone. It may never come back. I understand. But I've learned something in the past 3 years. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'm not angry anymore. I've taken what you did to me and transformed it into something that helps thousands of people. Your betrayal became my purpose." Tears were streaming down his face. "Is there any chance, any possibility, that someday—" "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I've learned to never say never. Healing takes time. Sometimes it takes a lifetime. Sometimes it never completes. But the door doesn't have to be locked forever." He nodded slowly. "Thank you for not destroying me when you could have." "I almost did," I admitted. "There were nights when I wanted nothing more than to see you in handcuffs. But then I realized that revenge wouldn't give me back what I lost. Only rebuilding could do that." We stood in silence for a moment, 2 people who had once been everything to each other, now trying to find some new ground to stand on. "Goodbye, Kevin," I said finally. "Take care of yourself." "Goodbye, Mom." I watched him walk away into the crowd. Maybe someday we would try again. Maybe we wouldn't. Either way, I knew I would be okay. That evening, I had dinner with Patricia, who had flown to D.C. for the ceremony. Over wine and pasta, she asked me the question everyone always asked. "Do you regret not pressing charges? He stole over $100,000 from you." I thought about it, as I had many times before. No. Not because he didn't deserve consequences. He did. But prison wouldn't have taught him anything except how to be harder. The path I chose, making him face what he did, making him repay every dollar, making him live with the knowledge that his mother saw him clearly, that was a different kind of justice. And it freed me to focus on building something positive instead of tearing something down. Patricia raised her glass. To second chapter. And to the strongest woman I know. I smiled and clinked my glass against hers. Today, at 67, I run the largest elder financial protection program in the country. The money Kevin repaid became the seed fund for our first community center, a place where seniors can come for help, advice, and the knowledge that they are not alone. I never did get to attend Lily's 5th birthday party, but 2 years ago, Lily, now 10, wrote me a letter. Her teacher had shown the class a news story about my work, and Lily had recognized my name. She wanted to know why Grandma helped so many people. She wanted to know if she could visit someday. I wrote back. I told her that families are complicated, that sometimes people hurt each other, but that love can take many forms. I told her that her grandmother had learned an important lesson, that taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary, that you can't pour from an empty cup. Last Christmas, Lily came to stay with me for a week. Kevin drove her up from Arizona but didn't come inside. We waved at each other through the car window. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly. But it was something. On her last night with me, Lily and I baked cookies together, the same sugar cookie recipe I had made with Kevin when he was small. As we decorated them with colored frosting, she looked up at me with those serious eyes. "Grandma, why did you and Daddy stop talking?" I considered how to answer. She deserved honesty, but she also deserved to love her father without carrying adult burdens. "Sometimes, grown-ups make mistakes," I said carefully. "Big mistakes that hurt people. And sometimes it takes a long time to figure out how to fix things. But what matters is that I love you, your daddy loves you, and no matter what happens between adults, that will never change." She nodded solemnly and went back to decorating her cookie, a purple cat with silver sprinkles. "Grandma? I like your purple sweater." I laughed and hugged her tight. "Thank you, sweetheart. I like it too." If you're listening to this story, if you see pieces of your own life in mine, I want you to know something. It is never too late to choose yourself. It is never too late to say no to disrespect, even from the people you love most. It is never too late to transform your pain into purpose. The day I walked out of that bank without signing those papers, I thought my life was falling apart. I had no idea it was actually coming together for the first time. Your story isn't over. Whatever betrayal you're facing, whatever hurt you're carrying, there's another chapter waiting to be written, and you are the only one who gets to hold the pen. Take it from me, a 6-7-year-old grandmother who turned $107,000 of stolen identity into a national movement. The best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's becoming someone they never imagined you could be. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment when you finally chose yourself? When you stopped accepting disrespect and started demanding dignity? Share your story in the comments, because your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you want to keep walking this journey with me, where every story is a lesson and every setback is a setup for something greater, stay with us and listen to the next chapter together. Because sometimes the most beautiful transformations begin at the moment we think everything is ending.